This podcast episode explores ego death, personal rebirth, and the archetype of the scorned woman, with Medusa as a symbolic figure of transformation. The episode mixes storytelling, psychology, spiritual wisdom, and empowerment. Welcome to She Lives, where magic and mystery become the blueprint and path to creating a new reality, deeply rooted in the essence of your soul. Join me as we hear, feel, and see through lenses and senses of intuitive wisdom and soul-based leadership. This is the She Lives podcast. Episode 8, Life After Death, featuring Medusa. Hello, my name is Hazel Evans, and this is the She Lives podcast. Welcome, beautiful souls. Today we step into the void, where the old self dies and something divine is reborn. This is life after death. A conversation on ego death, transformation, and reclaiming power after being cast aside. And who better to guide us than Medusa herself? A woman scorned, a woman outcast, a woman turned into a monster. Yet, in her destruction, she became untouchable, immortal, and very, very powerful. Medusa is often misunderstood, painted as a monster, betrayed and punished for her power, exiled for her existence. But what if Medusa isn't a villain, but a symbol of the woman who was wronged and then reborn? This episode is for every woman who has been cast aside, misunderstood, demonized, or rejected. This is your resurrection story. In the main themes for today, we are going to be exploring what is ego death and why it is necessary. We are going to be looking deeply into the Medusa as an archetype of the betrayed and exiled woman, and how to break free from the suffering and reclaim your divine power. So, stay around as we are in for a deep dive in this episode, and I am so looking forward to sharing it with you. Before we get started, I'd just say check out the thumbnail that I have created for this episode, because the Medusa illustration is one of my own illustrations, yes, and I have fused Medusa's face into my face on the thumbnail, because this is all about embodiment, and art is part of my embodiment process. Like you will probably know by now, creation is the way. So a few months ago, as part of my own journey with Medusa, whilst I was in Scotland, she was one of the deep feminine archetypes that wanted to emerge through me, my pen and my paper. So I'm giving honour to her and bringing her into this episode. And as you know, drawing is a ceremonial art practice in itself for me. And this is how we reclaim ourselves all along the way, by recreating ourselves. So if you fancy it, I invite you to grab a pen and paper and draw yourself a Medusa. How does your Medusa inside of you want to be put onto the page? She will show you what her medicine is. So let's get started. Would you believe me if I told you there was life after death? In the first part of this podcast, we are going to be answering the question, what is ego death? You have probably been exploring it yourself if you've got this far and are listening to my podcast. But let's see if we can always get a little bit deeper, because that's what I love to do, and that's where I love to take us. So, ego death is the shattering of identity. The moment when everything you thought you were collapses. And it's really painful, and it actually feels like dying. And in a way, you are. Ego death is brutal because it strips us of all the illusions we built our lives around, and who we thought we were, the people we loved, the roles we played, the stories we told ourselves. And once all of that collapses, we have two choices. Either we cling to the pain, or we rise as something new. Many women experience ego death after betrayal, rejection, or being cast aside. The world tells us who to be: soft, quiet, desirable, likable. Be a good woman, a good daughter, a good wife. But what happens when the mask we once wore no longer fits? When the world turns against us? That is the dark night of the soul. That's when it hits. The ego death is a phrase thrown around in spiritual practices, but what does it actually mean? And what does it actually feel like when it hits? Go back and listen to some of my previous episodes and you will know that I have been on this profound transformational journey. So I am giving you wisdom right from the core on this one. You know, the ego death is the complete unraveling of who you thought you were, the identity that you clung to, and the validation that you sought, and all the stories that you built your life around. Gone. Now, for many women, this death isn't voluntary. It is triggered by betrayal and heartbreak and exile. And often, narcissistic abuse comes into this. It is the catalyst for this. This is why I always say to women that I work with, get knowledgeable on how the psychology of narcissism works, because even though it's painful to face it, it will become a superpower. And even if you haven't reached that point just yet to see the truth through everything, keep going, because these are revolutionary times that are shifting and changing humanity as our consciousness is evolving. So maybe you did lose a relationship that you thought defined you, and maybe society turned on you. Maybe everybody turned on you, and maybe you were blamed, cast out, labelled as too much, too angry, too dangerous. Sound familiar? That was Medusa's fate too. I certainly know these places. When I felt banished and cast out, I was having prophetic dreams at night time of being like this, from the burning of the witch times, that I was cast out and I had to go hide in the woods to save my life. So I certainly felt like a banished woman. And it's not just rejection, it's not just the end of something finishing, it's something so much greater than that, calling from deep within to say, now is the time that we heal these wounds. Now is the time that we heal these really deep karmic wounds that maybe you've lived for so many lifetimes. Now is the time. How does this translate to this modern day life? You know, we'll be getting deeper into Medusa in a bit, but how this plays out and how to notice it, I've just chosen three little ways in, let's say. I've already mentioned narcissistic abuse, and all of this gets all bundled into the same kind of package, really. But let's have a look at 3 different qualities, let's say, of banishment. So in the modern day, because, as witches in the old days, or however it worked, we'd have been beheaded or burned, or I don't know, whatever way it was. And this time it's different. This time we are living and we are rising to tell our stories. So the modern day ways of banishment are the scapegoat, the black sheep, and being an outcast. Let's take the first one and see how to recognize what is going on so that you can heal, grow, and make changes. A scapegoat is someone unfairly blamed for problems or failures, often used as a means for others to avoid responsibility. This term originates from an ancient practice where a goat was symbolically burdened with the sins of a community and sent away. In families or social groups, the scapegoat may be the person considered blamed for conflicts, even when they are not at fault. Now, I recognise this a lot. Often, you might get baited into something and then all of a sudden it's you, the one that's complaining about it, and you are the one that is made to look wrong for it. Do you recognise that? I certainly do. So healing from this role involves recognising the unfair treatment, setting firm boundaries, and seeking supportive relationships that affirm your true worth. Because being a scapegoat, essentially, the others who are doing this to you are essentially not facing their own issues that they have to deal with, their own healing, right, from their own traumas, and they're projecting it onto you and making you the wrong one. It's a way of getting energy, and it really takes it out on your self-worth. So therapy or self-reflection, any kind of holistic or somatic ways of healing can really help break this cycle of blame and rebuild your self-esteem. And I know how important that is. I've realized that this has been part of my story throughout my life, and I'm reclaiming that bit by bit. It might seem that I'm very confident, and I am in some ways, but I have also in the background been healing this within myself. So the black sheep, let's move on. The black sheep refers to someone who stands out from their family. Anyone recognize that? Or stands out from a social group due to differences in beliefs, lifestyle, or choices. Now this is really noticeable in our society right now, because there's a big divide between essentially the society which wants us to conform to things that are not in line with nature, let's say, and the true nature of humanity, going against the heart of humanity. And it's challenging for you to stand in your power, but do that, because there's more and more of us rising and saying, no, I'm not taking that. But it does mean, being a black sheep, being willing to stand strong in your beliefs, and being strong in your own choices of your lifestyle that do not go along with the social norms. Now, often this is someone who can see the truth and they speak the truth, and they are not kindly liked for it because others would prefer to stay in the comfortable, uncomfortable zones of the status quo. Intrepid lies that are often woven into our societal systems. So the black sheep, while this can be a result of personal individuality, it often leads to exclusion or disapproval. Being the black sheep can be painful, especially when it results in rejection from the ones that you love. And healing requires embracing your own uniqueness, finding like-minded individuals who appreciate these differences and these amazing qualities that you have, and reframing the sense of isolation into an opportunity for self-growth. I know that I have done this throughout my whole life. This is part of me as a lone wolf, like on my journey, just shedding skins, and until I can get to the core of this lonesome journey and realize, wow, this has been a really painful but super powerful journey. And accepting yourself for all the powers that you are, for all your greatness, rather than seeking validation from those who have disapproved of you for being so magnificent. And this is the key to thriving despite feeling or being different. Your difference matters and it's needed, so embrace it. And the third modern day version of banishment is the outcast archetype. Don't you find that many people want to work with the lovely archetypes? You know, the archetypal goddesses, I don't know, Hathor, Isis, you know, all these lovely goddesses. How about we work with the outcast? Who wants to embody that archetype for a deep learning? Well, this is part of what Medusa talks to us about. An outcast is someone rejected or excluded from a group, often due to social norms, again, and misunderstandings, or deliberate alienation. Outcasts may struggle with loneliness and a sense of not belonging, which can lead to deep emotional wounds. Overcoming this requires self-compassion, recognizing that exclusion is often more about the rejecting group than the individual themselves. So, finding new communities, pursuing your passions, and seeking professional or peer support from authentic people who really want to see you thrive can help rebuild a sense of belonging. And over time, being an outcast can transform into a journey of personal empowerment and resilience. So these are all the themes that we're weaving into this podcast today. And wow, I mean, that was pretty rich already talking about that. Like, what an ego death already. And how to recognize these different vibrations of not feeling like you fit in, feeling that you're too much, etc., etc. So have you ever felt like you have lost yourself completely? And have you betrayed your heart or been betrayed? Or have you been betrayed and then realize, wow, I've been betrayed because I betrayed my own heart. And I was not taught how to value myself. Therefore, I was not taught how to put those boundaries there in a healthy way. And healing from betrayal is a profound spiritual journey that fosters deep self-awareness, resilience, and inner peace. So know that if you are going through betrayal, take the journey. This is what I always say to women that I work with. Let's go. Let's take the journey. Let's not be afraid anymore, because this is where you get your power back. Because betrayal shatters trust. And this is what just shatters through the core to get this ego death. But through the healing of betrayal, you can cultivate forgiveness. And not necessarily for the betrayer, because I don't always believe that there is power in forgiveness. It depends how much you're able to access the soul level of where that forgiveness is. You know, betrayal is so deep, and cultivate forgiveness for yourself first. And I always say, never ever condone anyone's behavior or give a forgiveness just to hope that it goes away, because that will not happen. there's a true deep forgiveness for you first, so that you can get personal liberation. And that is how it works. So this healing teaches the importance of self-love and boundaries and discernment. I made a video a while back about not forgiving the narcissist on my YouTube channel, because no, I'm not just going to say, yeah, I forgive you. It's like, no, you will be forgiven when you show up and do the work. I'm not just going to offer free tickets out here and there, sure. And yet on another level, when you can look from a, let's say, higher perspective on a soul level, yeah, there is forgiveness there. Absolutely. But if we're dealing with people on a very 3D earthly level at this level. So actually, no, I will forgive myself, and you do the work on yourself. And when you've done that, maybe we will be able to meet in this space of love, because this is where I'm functioning from, honey. It's like a whole different reality can open up where you are claiming power on every single move that you make on your healing journey. So when you do this, you learn how to guide yourself towards higher wisdom and emotional freedom. And this, of course, is a catalyst for transformation. And through this detachment from those who are outcasting you, betraying you, etc., you are detaching yourself from external validation, and you're embracing your inner strength. And often in relationships, there's some kind of codependency going on. And this is, partly to do with external validation, because you've been so invalidated and gaslit from being a scapegoat, a black sheep, and an outcast, that it's like, who do I trust? Where do I go? How do I validate? Oh gosh, I have got to start validating myself from the inside out, and finding the places to really hold your inner child, hold the wounded parts of yourself, and go, hey, honey, we are doing this. Come on, we can do it. So the pain, when processed with compassion and understanding, becomes a doorway to enlightenment and leads to a renewed sense of purpose. You will probably find that on the other side of this, or this growing process through it, is that even the job you thought that you were doing, all of that falls off with the masks that are falling off on your ego death, right? It's like everything is up for consideration, and anything that is out of alignment just doesn't stand anymore, because you are changing so deeply through this process that your purpose and your mission in life, if you're doing this right, will become clear. Yeah. And you will start to get an unwavering trust in divine timing, because you can see how everything is so deeply, intrinsically connected. And it's like I've said before, your superpowers, your psychic gifts, your awareness starts coming alive and turning this abuse into deep, deep healing and power. So you have to let go of all of the old version of who you were and who you'd made yourself to be in order to heal. So I ask you, are you resisting your transformation because it feels like grief? Yeah, grief is pretty hard one to want to lean into sometimes, especially when you can feel that it's really deep. And I would say that this is where Medusa and the power of the snake are incredible spiritual guides to your transformational healing regarding this. I remember when I first started journeying with the energy itself of grief. This was whilst I was still in the old marriage, probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, 7 years ago, something like that. And I was so angry, and I didn't know that I was in a narcissistic abusive marriage at the time. So I was processing all of this abusive behavior that was coming towards me and taking it all on. I was like, getting really, really angry, and then moving through the anger and letting it be grief. underneath that grief, underneath that anger was sadness, and allowing myself to enter into that pool of sadness and grief. And I remember one day I was like, I just like let loose. I let the floodgates of grief open in me. And whilst I was in it, I was witnessing myself. Like, I just could not stop crying. And I thought, I'm going down, I'm grieving, like bawling, completely bawling out, because I had no other way to process the abuse that I was going through at the time. And yet I'd already started this really profound medicine journeys and ceremonial journeys. So I was starting to learn how to, outside of medicine journeys and outside of ceremonial life at the time, I was able to start processing, moving emotions through whilst witnessing, almost like in a ceremony itself. So this became like a grieving ceremony. And I just grieved through the pain. And I remember I was bent over this cushion and I was like, it's never going to stop. It's like, and then all of a sudden I went silent, and it felt like I'd popped out onto the other side. And there was nothing but love and complete peace and stillness. And I was amazed. I was sincerely amazed as I witnessed the shedding, let's say, of all of that grief and all of that emotion that needed to move through me, and feeling the courage and daring enough to really enter into the grieving process and trust that I would pop out the other side. And I did. I have no idea how I did it. I guided myself, but over the years I have come to master witnessing myself through very strong emotions and becoming a great navigator of that, so that these powerful emotional times can really be portals to great healing. And when we learn to master the emotions like this, we are allowing the heart to open so that we can truly heal rather than close. And this is what I recognize a lot of people do, or don't do, let's say, is not grieving properly, because it can cause problems later down the line. This whole kind of, oh, it's okay, just get on with it. And that actually doesn't work. It's very old, from like several generations ago, of, buckle up and just get on with it. What's the English phrase? Yeah, keep calm and do it anyway, or something like that. The whole keep calm thing, it's like, no, I'm not going to freaking keep calm. I'm going to let these emotions out, excuse me very much. So yeah, feel free to express yourself, because any suppression on these emotions, like this rage, this anger, we're talking about like the sacred rage of Medusa, and going into these grief portals. It's like this incredible, powerful woman that wants to be liberated from you. And if you create blockages, well, you can guarantee at some point down the line, after covering it up with a nice mask of, yes, everything's fine, I'm a lovely woman, she's gonna break at some point, because that is going to leak out. That suppression is going to leak out of you at some point if you're covering it up. It's not going to go away. And, if you don't deal with it, you will pass it down to your children, which is essentially, how this all escalates through our toxic society. So, take responsibility and do some emotional healing. It really benefits everybody. And it might seem scary. I mean, goodness knows me how many times I've faced those edges. But it essentially leads to freedom, and that's what we're looking for. So take a deep breath. Ask yourself, identify, what are you grieving? What part of you is being stripped away right now? Or what part of you are you refusing to grieve? And find time to lean into that, to liberate it from you. I don't know about you, but I certainly feel like Medusa. I resonate with the feeling of not fitting in, exiled and cast out. You know, it's a difficult place to be. I'm a truth teller. I was born a truth teller. I've only learned this in the recent last 5 or so years. It's part of my astrology, it's part of my human design. It's like, I can't escape it. So, it's learning how to turn that into power, huh? And it's difficult, but the healing journey is deeply rewarding as you claim these parts of you and you rise like never before. So, let's take this healing journey together. Will you join me?
Would you believe me if I told you there was life after death? That when you dare to go deep, get lost, lose it all, immerse in the waters of your emotions, in the recreation of yourself, dare to feel again, dare to lose again, dare to love again. Learn to navigate the vast flow of time and space, water and fire. Learn to drown. Learn to purify. Learn to rise again in the flame of your own burning heart.
In this next part of the podcast, we are going to meet the monster. What does it mean to become the outcast? Let's talk to Medusa about this, the misunderstood outcast. We know her as the woman with snakes for hair, violated by Poseidon, punished by Athena, exiled, turned into a monster, whose gaze turned men to stone. But do you know her true story? Medusa wasn't a monster. She was a priestess, a woman of power, punished for being desired, cast out after being wronged. Sound familiar? Medusa is the woman who has been cast out for being too powerful, too feared, too free. Medusa is every woman who has been demonized for her rightful rage, for her sacred boundaries, for her refusal to conform. And maybe now you feel like that. Maybe you've been called bitter. Maybe you've been told you're too much. Maybe you've been made to feel like the villain in someone else's story. But what if I told you the monster is not something to fear? What if I told you becoming Medusa is not a curse, but an initiation? Medusa is often depicted as a monstrous figure. However, beyond this fearful image lies a powerful archetype of transformation, resilience, and personal rebirth. Medusa's story, when examined deeply, reflects the process of ego death, the destruction of old identities, and the path to personal power. Medusa's story begins with betrayal and injustice. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, she is a mortal woman wronged by Poseidon in Athena's temple. Now, instead of justice, she receives punishment, transformed into a feared monster. But her fate does not end there. Her beheading by Perseus is a symbolic representation of ego death, the necessary destruction of an old self to give rise to something new. Even in death, her power endures, and her blood creates Pegasus, the winged horse of the Gorgonian. Her severed head is used as a protective amulet. There's this really powerful energy of transformation through this. And I've also heard stories around that the blood of Medusa is drunk for transformation, and it's very sort of symbolic of this venom, turning venom and turning poison into medicine. And I'll talk a little bit about this later. But right now I decided to channel Medusa, because I channel for my own purposes, for my soul prophecy oracle, for the soul readings that I do for people. And between me and my beloved, we love channeling together to bring down the wisdom, the higher wisdom. And I thought, hey, I'm going to do this for Medusa, see what she has to say. So I asked, "Dear Medusa, what wisdom would you like to share?" "I would like to tell you that you are not alone. You are one of so many at this time who has endured great pain and great suffering of the heart. Cast aside for your soulful beauty, gifts and greatness. You are not the only one who has great stories to tell, so fear not, you shall meet your kind and you shall reunite as the new leaders of this earth. Only the scorned are the true phoenixes who rise. This is a rite of passage, not a game you play in the schoolyard. This is the truth of the life journey you have been gifted as your initiation to greatness. The once considered worthless outcasts are the ones who rise. The scorned, unsupported castaways are finding their way to great shores once again. For you are the true leaders. You cannot lead without this true power. And this will show itself in time. As the old is falling, you are rising. Let this be known." It is always really powerful to channel energies and archetypes, and well, I think she had some great words to tell there. So, embodying the Medusa archetype for self-empowerment and transformation symbolizes reclaiming one's power, embracing fierce autonomy, and transmuting past wounds into strength. Medusa, often misrepresented as a monstrous figure, is a powerful symbol of resilience, of pure feminine rage at its best, and the reclamation of sovereignty after betrayal. This is what all of my work is about. It's not for nothing my business wanted to be called The Sovereign Journey. This is true taking of the journey for true healing and reclamation. So spiritually, she teaches the lesson of setting firm boundaries, turning the gaze of judgment back onto those who seek to diminish our worth. By integrating Medusa's energy, you channel the ability to alchemize pain into wisdom, fear into confidence, and victimhood into self-mastery. This is exactly what we are doing when you come and work with me. This is exactly what we are doing. Like, where do we reclaim the power? Let's do this. So she invites us to shed societal conditioning, awaken the inner magic, and embrace the full spectrum of our emotions without shame. And in doing so, we transform ourselves into beings of profound presence, capable of commanding respect and walking our path with unwavering authenticity. So I'd like to ask you, what part of you have others feared? And what power have you been told to shrink? Because now is the time to let all of that go, to transform it. Whatever venom that was that they put inside of you, now you transmute that, and it's your time to rise.
Learn to rise again in the flame of your own burning heart.
Let's get even deeper. Are you ready? Let's look at the symbolism of Medusa. Let's look a little bit closer at the snakes and the Gorgon curse. Woohoo! And turning men to stone. Yeah, what does all that mean? And what do these aspects teach us? So snakes, at this time of recording, it's year 2025. Yes, we are in the year of the snake. Yes, everybody's talking about shedding skins. Is anybody actually doing the work? I don't know. I suspect that this year is going to push us into great transformational times. So better get wise and know how to master your emotions. Take your sovereign journey with the snake. So snakes are all about transformation and shedding of the old self. And, I would say, get drawing some snakes. Draw the snake, dance the snake. Learn how to embody it so that you can receive its amazing wisdom for yourself. Because they have long been symbols of transformation, renewal, and spiritual awakening. Their ability to shed their skin represents the process of personal growth, of letting go of the past and embracing a new version of yourself. I mean, how does it get any better than that? And in spiritual traditions, the snake is seen as a guide through these periods of deep change, urging individuals to release the old habits and beliefs and limitations that no longer serve them. This is the confronting of, like I said earlier with the grief, like leaning into it so that you can feel it and let it go. And this shedding process is like mirrors to the cycles of life, death and rebirth that are encouraging resilience and adaptability and shedding, and all of that at the same time. And the presence of the snake in your spiritual journey can signify healing and wisdom and the awakening of these dormant energies that want to be ignited in you again, such as the Kundalini energy, this life force energy, this sexual, sacred, sensual energy that wants to be ignited in you again. This is the sacred force of power to say, yeah, I'm here and I'm alive. This is the coming back to life. Yes, I've been wronged. Yes, I've been betrayed. Yes, I've been ransacked for everything I've had. And I've been denied support. I've been denied being listened to and validated. But watch me now. Watch me now. This is that energy. And everybody who's been through this has got this power within them. So when this starts igniting, and when it truly ignites, and I don't just mean going and doing some, workshops here or there, whatever, to learn about your Kundalini energy. I'm talking because I've been through phases of learning different methods and techniques, and 15 to 20 years of this. But when it comes to the crunch of actually implementing wisdom of the snake whilst you are moving through a transformational time of your life, going it alone and taking that journey on your own, that is when you get the true path to your higher consciousness and enlightenment. You don't get it sitting in a workshop with loads of people channeling their energy, sounding off fake orgasms or whatever you do. It's like, no, this awakening comes in these profound times of claiming your power back again. So by embracing the lessons of the snake, you can cultivate this inner strength and embrace the transformation and move forward with a renewed purpose and clarity. Like I said earlier, Dark Night of the Soul, it's fantastic for shedding the, shedding the skins and shedding the old. I'm laughing now because it brings up a memory. It brings up a memory of when I first started to go and sit in satsang with various different wise men or gurus, however you would like to call them. And I remember hearing these stories of how they became enlightened, and I always thought, oh wow, gosh, that's amazing. Like, wow, I hope one day that I can go through an experience like that. And it's like, whoa, when the dark night of the whole, yeah, it is a bit like a black hole. The dark night of the soul, when the true dark night of the soul hits you. And I don't just mean a little, burnout, which can be pretty harsh in itself. It's like full on dark night of the soul, which can last several years. You go through these moments of absolute, I don't know how to call it, like, this is when you have to cultivate your inner strength and embrace the transformation. Nobody's going to ignite your Kundalini for you. You have to do it yourself. So, yeah, I hope you can get the gist of what I'm saying here. Yeah, okay, let's move on with our symbolism. Let's move on to the Gorgon curse. So, this is really the power of the outcasted woman. The Gorgon curse is rooted in Greek mythology and symbolizes transformation and protection and the consequences of unchecked power. So the Gorgon curse and the archetype of the outcasted, scorned woman carries deep spiritual meaning, symbolizing the transformative power of exile and suffering. In mythology, figures like Medusa, once wronged and cast away, embody the wisdom that emerges from pain and rejection. So, if you, like me, have been betrayed or felt betrayed by lots of people in your life, and felt very alone and not known why, this is really for you. Like, I'm really bigging you up. Like, this, there is so much power that you can get from this sense of rejection. And the Gorgon's petrifying gaze can be seen as a metaphor for the ability to confront and reveal hidden truths, forcing the world to reckon with its own darkness. So your power of truth is so powerful. Start believing in yourself. Start believing in your power as an incredible woman. And spiritually, those who are cast out, whether through societal rejection or personal trials, often undergo profound inner growth, gaining resilience, intuition, and a deeper connection to their true selves. This is why I really pioneer and I love working with women who have gone through this, because these are the people who know how to choose life. And until you've gone through this, you do not know how to do that. And if you're listening to me feeling, wow, like inspired by this story, maybe in a few years' time or whenever it will be, you will remember this, because this will give you power for when you move through your own life difficulties. And these are the true leaders. These are the true leaders. You know, the ones who have gone through these deep, profound inner growth. And often, it's the outcasted women. This is why I love working with people who feel outcasted and who are really prepared to rise. These are the true leaders. So the outcasted are like the mystic or the seer, the ones who see beyond the conventional norms and embody the sacred feminine's untamed and transformative nature. Through embracing the solitude of exile, you often find power in turning this curse into a blessing. And the isolation is a path towards wisdom. It's that path of sitting under a tree like a guru, or, like absolutely bleeding it all out until there's nothing left of you. And the rejection can then be turned into a divine initiation. And this is the healing of the curse of the Gorgon. So what about turning men to stone? What does all that mean? Now, the divine rage that freezes those who once harmed her, that's what this is about. The phrase turning men to stone symbolizes a powerful spiritual transformation rooted in divine justice and retribution. It represents the moment when a wounded soul, often a woman, who has endured betrayal or harm, harnesses her inner divinity to transcend pain and assert her sovereignty. This so-called freezing of those who once wronged her is not merely an act of vengeance, but a reflection of karmic balance, an energetic reckoning where those who inflicted suffering are forced to confront their own misdeeds. Spiritually, this phrase is a reclamation of power, a shedding of victimhood, and an embodiment of divine rage that purifies and protects. It serves as a reminder that divine feminine energy is not only nurturing, but is also fiercely protective, ensuring that justice is met with alignment and the higher laws of justice. Ultimately, this transformation is liberating and allows you to step into your fullest power, untouched by the past wounds, whilst those who harmed you are left immobilized by the weight of their own actions. And this is really the justice, and trusting in that divine justice, that when they are no longer hurting you, that the divine justice will take its place and they will be faced with looking at their own actions, because they can no longer use you as the scapegoat. Powerful stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So Medusa is the woman who was punished for being too much and too powerful, too sacred, too feared. And so she was made into a monster. Now, how often have we seen this in history, and how often have we felt this in our lives? I'd like to ask you, have you ever felt like Medusa, turned into something very ugly because of someone else's fears, turned into something where you can see other people behaving towards you in a certain way and you feel trapped inside going, this is not me. Why are they behaving like this towards me? This is not me. Is because those projections are making you into someone that you're not, making you ugly. I recognize this so much, and it's excruciatingly painful. And this is often due to very early wounding in life, where your boundaries were crossed and you were wronged by those who you thought loved you. And it's difficult places to heal, but it can be done. And I know that I am certainly doing this. So find the people that you can trust, and you can heal. So what parts of you were punished for being too much, too powerful, too beautiful, too talented, or too truth-telling, huh? And if you could rewrite Medusa's ending, how would it go? I would certainly give her a very good and powerful ending. And in a way, I guess that's what I'm planning for my life. And I really hope to share more of this triumph of Medusa with you in future episodes. With the archetype of the snake, you have the power to work magic on yourself and shed the old skins. And the venom, the poison that hurt you, is in fact the medicine to transmute the pain. This is your medicine journey. Becoming the medicine woman, becoming the healer, the alchemist, turning stone into gold and transmuting that pain into great power. So here you are, ego dead, identity shattered, heart broken. What now? This is the part of the story where most women stop. They live the wound. It turns into bitterness, and it turns into ongoing venom that is used against you in those places that become very sterile inside because of the amount of bitter venom that you are not allowing yourself to grieve, not allowing yourself to move through and be transmuted in the transformational process. It is so hard to do this if you have shame around getting help or finding a way. You cannot sit there and stay in that venom and expect to be okay. You have to learn how to move it. And this is where the true spiritual journey comes in. Because anything that is shoved under the carpet or hidden will surface in some way at some point to bite you in the butt. Like the snake. It's gonna get you. So yeah, this like I said is the part of the story where most women stop and they live the wound and they stay in the grief. But Medusa didn't just die, she transformed. And this is where the powerful bit is, because like the triple goddess, which I love talking about, the death, life and rebirth, the life, death and rebirth, even in the death, Medusa's head became a weapon. Her power was undeniable, and her resurrection has come full circle into this reclamation of herself. So this is where you reclaim yourself. Where you were exiled, you build your own empire. Where you were betrayed, you become untouchable. Where you were cast out, you create your own mythology. You become the living legend. You are not a scorned woman. You are a resurrected woman. and live the fire of the passion of your dreams. Make them come alive. So I would like to ask you now, what is this new you that you are emerging into from destruction? Who are you becoming? How are you alchemizing this new version of you? How are you shedding those skins? And how are you turning that poison of outcasted pain and grief into golden elixir of life that ignites the Kundalini fire within you and resurrects that great cobra snake within you to stand tall and say, yeah, I am here. I am here and I deserve to be here. And this, my friends, is the deep-seated root in the resurrection of your self-worth. That which was taken away from you is now reclaimed. So let's move on to how, through the death of the old self, you rebirth into power. And here's the truth. The world will try to make you smaller. It will exile you when you refuse to conform. But there is life after death. There is power after rejection. And Medusa didn't die. She became a legend. Medusa was never truly destroyed. She was made eternal, and so are you. You have been burned, but you are not the ashes. You are the phoenix. And this is what she said in her channeling. You are the phoenix rising, and only the true phoenixes are the ones who have been burned and scorned fully. It's not everybody, and the ones who know, they know, because it's a resurrection energy vibration that you are vibrating at. You cannot pretend it. So we will look each other in the eyes and we'll go, oh yeah, we know. I see you, sister, because I feel you. And this is how we know with the new earth leaders rising, it's a vibration. You can't pretend, you can't mask it. It's not based on any job or what you have done before. It is based on how you showed up to your soul journey. So, yeah, if you have been burned to the ashes, you are a true phoenix and you are getting ready to rise. You have been abandoned, but you are not lost. You have died, but you are not dead. You are here. You are breathing. You are becoming a goddess reborn. Betrayal, though it is so painful, it holds immense spiritual potential when transmuted into wisdom and strength. Like alchemists turning lead into gold, we can transform the wounds of deception into a source of profound empowerment. Betrayal strips away illusions, forcing us to confront our deepest truths and guiding us towards radical self-awareness. By embracing the pain rather than resisting it, we cultivate resilience, inner sovereignty, and a renewed sense of purpose. It teaches us discernment, self-worth, and the power of unconditional self-love. When we rise from betrayal with newfound clarity, we reclaim our narrative, shedding limiting beliefs and stepping into a more authentic, powerful version of ourselves. In this way, betrayal becomes a sacred initiation, refining our soul and leading us towards a destiny greater than we ever imagined. So, are you on your journey yet, like me, healing from the wounds of the scorned woman? It's powerful. And you can do it because it is possible, and it is the portal to the power that you always dreamt. And because you've gone through it, there's so much more waiting for you. So let's just have a little resume as we wrap up this, get close to wrapping this up for today. So 3 ways to overcome the scorned woman wound. First of all, let the old self die. The version of you that needed validation, you can let her go now. And the woman who begged to be chosen, you can also let her go now. And the girl who thought she had to be small to be safe, well, you can let her go now. It's time to breathe that out. And turn your pain into power. Medusa's gaze turned men into stone, and your pain can become your strength. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. I have been in those times as well where I'm like, I am going to deliver my truth even against all the odds. And I would come away and I would be shaking. This is the transformation. This is the shaking that is needed from the core so that the skin can fall away. So create from your wounds, like I always say, art, writing, music, movement, self-expression. This is integration. This is allowing it to move through you. It's powerful, so powerful. And get on my training of 7 days of creation and move through that creation process to allow yourself to become new. And let's go a bit further. Why not reclaim your own myth? Because, you are becoming a goddess reborn, like I said. You are becoming a living legend because you have survived this. And Medusa was never a monster, and neither were you. So you can stop playing that role now that you were cast away in, and you can rewrite your story. Get the journal out. Speak to yourself of who you are today and step into that new role of your greatness. You are not here to be small. You are not here to be acceptable. You are here to be exceptional. You are here to be divine. You are here to be whole and to rise from the ashes and claim what was always yours. Let's have a few last reflections now. And what if today's episode was the funeral of your old self? What if today was the funeral? What would you say to her at your eulogy? When you get my oracle deck, the Soul Prophecy Oracle, you will see that the card 0 is a card for this eulogy energy. It's also the card of the sacred clown, which is really this energy inviting the transformation of the old into the new. So who is the new version of you that rises from that old version? And what will she no longer tolerate? All of these things you can have a little scribbling down of your higher self, channeling. And maybe you'd like to channel Medusa yourself and see what she has to gift you. So let's take one last deep breath together. And feel your old self dissolving. Who do you choose to be now? And if this episode spoke to you, please share your rebirth in the comments and subscribe for more wisdom. I would love to hear from you. And remember that no one can destroy you, only you. And you right now are rising from the ashes. You are infinite.
Dare to feel again, dare to lose again, dare to love again. Learn to navigate the vast flow of time and space, water and fire. Learn to drown. Learn to purify. Learn to rise again in the flame of your own burning heart.
Let's close now. Life after death. Medusa was never the villain. She was the rebirth of something unstoppable, and so are you. There is life after death, after betrayal, after exile, and it is more powerful than you ever imagined. So this quote reclaims Medusa's story as one of resilience, transformation, and power rather than villainy. Spiritually, it speaks to the cycles of death and rebirth, both literal and metaphorical, reminding us that even in moments of betrayal, pain, and exile, there is an unstoppable force within us that refuses to be extinguished. Medusa, so often misunderstood, embodies the power of reclaiming one's truth and rising from the ashes of destruction. Her story becomes a symbol of spiritual alchemy, turning suffering into strength, isolation into self-realization, and fear into unshakable force of nature. This perspective inspires a deep inner awakening, urging us to embrace our own rebirths with courage, knowing that what comes after devastation is a power greater than we ever imagined. Now, if this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments. Tell me, what part of you are you letting go of today? And follow me for more deep dives into self-reclamation and transformation. Like and subscribe to my channel. It is always so much appreciated as I am building my audience after having been completely destroyed and now rising from the ashes myself. So I really appreciate your support. So please share this widely with your friends and family and everyone that you can get your hands on. So check in the description below for other resources and connections and links to help you step into your divine power, and join my CHALICE program. It's an incredible rebirthing, recreating initiation for women on their sovereign journey, and all the information is there regarding that. And you can still also get your hands on my Oracle deck. Pre-order it now for the launch that's going to happen this May. Super exciting, and I'm so delighted you're part of this journey. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all of my information at thesovereignjourney.com, and I will always love to hear from you. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a beautiful day resurrecting yourself. So much love. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast today. May you live your magnificence today and beyond. Lots of love, and see you soon for another episode of She Lives.